Hello, I'm Christopher Thompson. Welcome to another edition of Chris Speaks. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take it anymore. Hey, that's more natural than I've done so far. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is that another overreach of our federal government. In a way, I hate using that because now I sound like a Republican. But anyways, I'm starting to get really irritated with our government and the things they're doing, especially in the House, where they passed something that hopefully won't get past the Senate, but that will make it so that the government can't use the numbers, the casualty numbers that are provided by the Gaza Health Ministry, which are everybody sees as reliable numbers. Everybody uses them. We use them. Israel in the past has used them. Instead, now they're trying to discredit them and saying that they're lying and they're way too high. If anything, they're too low because they haven't found all the people that have been killed. Basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to shut down free speech in the government, if there was any anyways. I mean, you can't litigate speech. I mean, that's why, like we've seen in other countries where they have hate speech laws, which sound good at first, but then they start affecting speech that isn't hate speech, mainly because they're going by a definition of anti-Semitism that basically says that any even legitimate criticism of Israel is considered to be anti-Semitic, which is a joke. The whole point they do that is because people are like, oh, they hate Jews, and then they don't even pay attention to anything else. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're shutting down the conversation because they're cowards and because they know there is no way you can sit there and justify what's going on. There's no logical way to do that. So they're shutting down the conversation before it even happens. Oh, and here's the thing going on in Germany, and it's crazy. They're basically, for the people who now for new applicants for being citizens, they have to pledge that they recognize Israel's right to exist, as if it's some kind of legal thing. Let's see, the idea of a right to exist, it goes back to the 1800s of a nation's right to exist, and the people didn't have the right to exist, which I think is kind of weird, but nations had the right to exist, and it didn't really get used much until, like, for Israel in the 1950s. I'm sure it might have been used other times, but this is what it's been used the most for. And okay, this is what I'm saying. If Israel has the right to exist, Palestine has the right to exist. With that said, well, let's look. I'm going to look at a definition of definition of the right to exist. Okay, so hold on. Oh, this is the wrong one. I think that's the article. Okay, so let me go to this definition. Come on, slow phone, slow internet. The right to exist. The right to exist is said to be an attribute of nations, according to an essay by 19th century French philosopher, because it's philosophy, it's not a legal thing, French philosopher Ernest Renan. A state has the right to exist when individuals are willing to sacrifice their own interests for the community it represents. Unlike self-determination, the right to exist is an attribute of states rather than people. It is not a right recognized in international law. The phrase has featured prominently in Arab-Israeli conflict since the 1950s. The right to exist of a de facto state may be balanced against another state's right to territorial integrity. Proponents of the right to exist trace it back to the right of existence, said to be a fundamental right in the states recognized by writers of the international law for hundreds of years, or blah blah blah. basically it's not a law thing. It's this thing that basically they use it. Oh, you need to recognize the right to exist. It's like, well, do we tell Israel that they need to recognize Iran's right to exist? And nobody would back Iran. Iran's ran by a bunch of crazy religious fanatics that is basically the fault of the United States because we overthrew their democracy, and they ran for the safe haven of the religious leaders that just got power hungry. Anyways, that's a whole other story. So I was reading this article, I think it's of the New Republic, and let's see, what does it say? It says, okay, hold on, slow thing. Israel's right to exist is a rhetorical trap. It's on New Republic. It's written by John Patrick Leary. The little title underneath, no country has the right to exist, so what do people really mean when they say Israel does? Okay, blah, blah, blah. I want to get back here. Okay, the right to exist as a nation is, as Palestinian scholar Edward Said rarely dismissed it, as a formula hitherto unknown in international or customary law. Rights pertain to individuals, not countries, and the universal right, by definition, cannot by definition belong to some people and not others. It is one of the greatest ironies of the Israeli-Palestine conflict that Israel seems untouchable by international law. It actually exists. It suffers no sanctions for routine violations of Geneva Convention prohibitions and settlements in the occupied bank. Okay, so there you go, and that's Edward Said, and he's a great writer about this conflict. I think he's gotten some awards here and there. Well, he's basically saying it's ridiculous. Rights belong to people, not states, not governments. So how can a state have the right to exist? Okay, and then here's another perspective. Okay, we say, in the West, we say the right to exist, but when Israel expects people, and they expect it, they say, oh, you need to recognize our right to exist as a Jewish state. Well, here's a problem. There's many Jews that don't recognize Israel as a Jewish state because having a state goes against the Jewish laws that they currently follow. So they don't acknowledge the right to exist as a Jewish state. I don't recognize the right to exist as a Jewish state, just like I don't recognize Iran's right to exist as a Muslim state, because religion and politics don't mix. Religion screws up politics. You get these religious fanatics like the people that are in control of Israel right now, and they're just as bad as the people in Iran. I mean, seriously, they're worse because they actually do stuff. Iran just talks a lot of shit and did some fake, and they did some weak ass retaliation after Israel assassinated one of their generals. So, my point is, I don't recognize any state as being a religious state, of being a certain thing. No. There's a reason why the United States shied away from theocracy, because that's what was going on in England. And English rule is that they were ruling by the church. The Church of England was what was really in power, and they didn't want that, so we wrote it in the goddamn Constitution that there should be that the state will not favor one religion over the other. Therefore, we can't be a theocracy, even though a lot of people are trying hard to do that. Okay, so what's my next thing? Well, so there's a lot of stuff to be said about that, and I'm really pissed off that the news is trying to frame it as if the protesters are all anti-Semitic, and they're not. There might be some chuckleheads here and there, but they're not telling you the truth. They're throwing anti-Semitism out there to shut down the conversation, because that's what they want to do. They want to shut down the conversation because they have no leg to stand on in this conversation. You cannot logically argue for killing innocent people, purposely targeting innocent people, civilians. You cannot argue logically on behalf of a genocide without making a bunch of errors and lies and false statements. It's just not possible. And it really upsets me that they're trying to pin people that are protesting, that are out there, that are against our government arming Israel so they can drop bombs on toddlers. And people like me, that the first thing they'll try to say is you're anti-Semitic. I haven't had anyone tell me that, but I mean, I've seen other people like just throw it out there, and I'm thinking, and it's always, that's all they have. They don't have anything to make a logical statement. A lot of them are trolls and bots. So, like, this is the thing. It would hurt me that anyone would think I was prejudiced or anything, because I'm not. I've never been. I grew up in a multicultural town area. I lived in Southern California, and everybody lived in everybody's neighborhood. There weren't separate neighborhoods like there are in some states that go back way back when or whatever. So I never saw one person any different than any other person. And to even think that somebody might think that about me is terrible. I love people. I hate seeing things where there's all this stuff. I have seen horrible images. I have seen videos of, I saw this one of this guy running to the hospital with his son whose brains are leaking out of a hole in his head. I've seen screaming little toddlers, little kids screaming because their arms and legs are blown off. I mean, we're seeing a thing where they are arresting, the IDF is arresting and killing medical personnel, so they don't have, there's no water going in except for when Israel says water goes in, because they control their pipes, they control the water. There's no food going in, and it's just horrible. If you can see the things that I've seen, the pictures I've seen, the videos I've seen, and not think this is wrong, I'm sorry. I don't like saying this, but then there's something wrong with you. Your moral compass is broken. You see, I'm a big fan of Martin Luther King, and among other people who were civil rights activists. And I believe in Martin Luther King's dream, man. He had a dream, and I have that dream too. And it's sad that even in my lifetime, that dream hasn't come to fruition. A dream that everybody would live together in harmony, that little black boys and little black girls and little Asian boys and everybody, all these kids would live together in harmony and grow up loving each other, not hating each other. And it's still not happening. It's not in this country and not in the world. But we're seeing this movement happening. We're seeing this movement jump up, and we're talking about these college students started it, and it's ricocheted all around the world. People all over, in countries all over the world, are against this, against what they see as a genocide. What the UN, what the International Criminal Court see as war crimes and crimes against humanity and genocide. This is, man, sometimes I have to take a break, because it is just like seeing all this stuff and reading about this stuff. Sometimes it can be very, very draining. Like, I get to the point where I'm just mentally exhausted, because I just can't fathom that this shit still goes on in the 21st century. the whole reason we created that the world got together, the United Nations got together and created international law was to keep shit from this from happening in the first place. Okay, so right now I'm going to read you something I wrote, and hopefully it records this time, because I did a whole show and it didn't record the audio. Okay, so here's what I'm writing, because I'm trying to write a book, and so I have different things that I've written, and here's one. Okay, Gaza lays in rubble as Israel begins its assault on Rafah, the last standing city in Gaza. Gaza is now a pile of rubble and bodies. These are bodies of brown-skinned Middle Eastern Muslims, which are not as important to the West as white Jewish bodies. By simply testifying to this fact, to the fact that Israel is committing acts of genocide upon the Palestinians they occupy, will end up with you being ostracized. Those who testify to the fact that Israel being an apartheid state will get their jobs stolen from them, their reputations destroyed. Many college students may lose their degrees that they worked hard at simply for protesting their university's investment in companies that give support to arming Israel. Anyone who dares stand up for what is right is treated as if they are a horrible human being, berated for daring to claim that Israel does not have the right to murder civilians and steal their land. How dare we expect them to follow international law? The buffoons who dare to call themselves journalists are twisting the narrative to make the protests seem like they are anti-Semitic, when in fact they are anti-genocide and anti-oppression, acting as if being in solidarity with the Palestinian people is in itself an act of hate. How is having love for all people regardless of their nationality, religion, or race hate? I myself am standing up for the Palestinians because Martin Luther King Jr. envisioned a world in which all people live in peace. That dream I had too. Instead, we still live in a cruel world where some people are seen as being important enough to have rights, while other people are not seen as important enough to be treated like human beings. Why are some dead children mourned while others are forgotten as if they never lived at all? It's getting me here, man. It's my own writing, but it's getting me right here, man. Okay, so I have chosen to tell the story of a people abandoned by the West in favor of their oppressors, a people who are the center of much hate, a people who were denied the right of self-determination in favor of immigrants from Europe. The Palestinians are a disenfranchised people, familiar with oppression, who are seen by the West as not having the right to exist and not having the right to self-determination nor the right to defend themselves. All of these rights have been allotted to Israel but denied to the people indigenous to the area. So that's part of what I wrote. I'm trying to write little things here and there. I'm not even really sure exactly what my book will be. Okay, it's gonna be on the Palestinian thing. A lot of it's gonna be me documenting a lot of the things that are happening as the news happens, and I'm not keeping up with it. It's just every day they kill tons and tons of people. It's just too much to keep up with it. Like I said, I'm exhausted sometimes trying to keep up with it, so I need to take a break sometimes. So see, it's just madness. And here's something, okay, the IDF's excuse is just literal bullshit. Okay, so this woman, and she said it was the IDF, this old woman was mauled by the dog. The IDF mauled her with a dog. They sicked their dog on her and he chewed her up pretty good. She said it was the IDF, but does the IDF say that? No, this is their insane excuse their excuse is, well, Hamas kidnapped our dog and sicked it on the old lady. So you're saying she doesn't know the difference between Hamas and the IDF. Unlikely story. I mean, that's just insane. It's crazy how, we have this law where you can bribe politicians, and we have APEC, which is basically puts money into campaigns for people who are pro-Israel and they're putting so much money that they smash their opponents. And I've been thinking about this. I mean, the pro-Palestinian side, they need their version of APEC. I mean, hey, if they're going to play dirty, we can play dirty. So, and there's organizations, a lot of them, the people who put money into some of these, the protests at the college are Jewish. There's like a wealthy Jewish family that did that, but they don't have enough. That one family, I'm sure they don't have enough to put out money like AIPAC puts up. But what if all the groups that are pro-Palestinian, the ones that aren't connected to terrorism or something, not saying that I've heard any are, but get all the legitimate groups together that are against the genocide that's going on, and why don't we buy politicians? Why don't we buy pro-Palestinian politicians and put them into seats in Congress and the Senate? Because, I mean, if all's fair in love and war, and the law says it can be done, let's do it. We need, the pro-Palestinian side needs our version of AIPAC. If they can buy politicians to defeat people that have been in their seats for forever, to primary candidates, let's do that. We should do that. I mean, why not? I mean, sure, it's not playing fair, but they say you can play dirty. Because that's truthfully, that and the American people getting out there and protesting and getting out there when Netanyahu comes out here, for a joint session of Congress, they should not be inviting a war criminal out here to basically so they can lick his balls. It's just Netanyahu ball licking thing. That's all it is. To say how wonderful he is for taking our bombs and dropping them on Palestinian school children. I hope not just in Washington, but everywhere in this country, when that happens, there was just freaking, protests everywhere. Let them know that's the whole thing. The American people have to speak. The government, the officials are supposed to work for us, and they're not working for us. We are their bosses. So let's let them know that we are not happy with their job performance, that what they are doing is not right, and that the American taxpayer doesn't want to fucking fit the bill for their stupid thing they're doing. They're supporting genocide, materially supporting genocide against all these other countries and the United Nations saying that, no, this is wrong. And we're like, here's more bombs. Here's more bombs. Here, drop some more bombs on toddlers. Oh, yeah, okay, so I saw some small snippets of the debate last night. I didn't bother watching it. I didn't care. So, anyways, there's a part that they show where Biden's just so happy about, we gave so much money to Israel to support him and blah blah blah. So he's happy about dropping bombs on people. Well, it gets worse. Trump chimes in and he's like, you're keeping Israel from doing what they want to do. You held back bombs or whatever for like 5 minutes or whatever. But anyways, he's like, I'd let them do it. I'd let them finish the job. And then tried to call them Palestinians. So he's basically saying, if he's president, he'll make sure they wipe out every single Palestinian left in Gaza. Do any of these guys seem like they're moral in any way, shape, or form when it comes to this subject matter? I mean, other than that, Biden's been a pretty good president, way better than Trump ever was, but they both support genocide, one to the fact that he'll help them wipe them all out. This is not what we should be seeing from politicians in the 21st century. I mean, for God's sake, it's 2024, man. It's 2024, and we're still supporting this kind of this Western colonialism that's outdated, and we should have outgrown 100 years ago. It's just, man, fucking scream it from the goddamn rooftops. Shout it from the rooftops, man. Everybody, I mean, sure, I don't have much of an audience, and probably nobody's gonna see me, but maybe one person will see me, 2 people, 3 people, maybe out of them, they'll say something or write something, and that'll affect other people, and then other people that were afraid to speak out and be on the side of justice, they'll write something, and someone else, and soon, next thing you know, we got 50 people that are doing things, saying things, protesting, whatever. I mean, we got to keep this going. Let your voice be heard. I mean, we cannot be silent about this anymore. This is immoral. If you want to get the morals, you want to get morality involved, as politicians like to do, this is immoral. There's no getting around it. This is not morality. This is the opposite of morality. You are helping people oppress people. I mean, according to the ICC, International Criminal Court, and the United Nations and a lot of countries, they're committing genocide. That's a war crime. They're starving people to death. That's considered a crime against humanity. And this is what our government is supporting. I just don't know what to do anymore, man. I'm trying, but all I can seem to do is do this stupid show and tweet on Twitter, and I've tried to get this, I've tried to do this petition, and it's not getting anywhere, and nobody's, one person besides myself has signed it, but it basically says it's a petition to petition the government to stop funding, sending bombs for Israel to drop on innocent people, so that they should not be funding a genocide. And I don't know, I can't get people. How about anybody out there? Why don't one of you guys try to do? I tried to do it on change.org, because that's the best one out there so far. You can't petition on the government's website anymore. But I don't know if I'm not getting nowhere. Maybe someone out there, maybe you can do a petition of a similar thing, because we need to do something. We need to do something big. And I'm talking about something big, protesting, nothing violent, no violence whatsoever. I mean, we can't do this. And here's the thing. Okay, I know there's gonna be there's people out there. There's these counter protests, these pro-Israel counter protests, and they're going to be violent towards you. Well, this is the thing. This is what worked for black people in the South. Is you've got to let them hit you. I mean, get out of the way if you can, but don't hit them back. Because if you hit them back, you don't know what they're going to say. Oh, the pro-Palestinian protesters were being hold on, stupid phone. Okay. So they'll say, oh, they're being violent. You know how they're doing it. They're twisting everything. So, I mean, it's easier said than done. I don't know if I could do that if someone was hitting me, I mean, I'd try to, but dude, whatever you do, don't do anything violent. And please stop. Don't go to people's houses and put up signs and spray paint them. That's not looking good to anyone. It's not a good idea. Leave people alone. Don't go to their houses. Don't dox them. Don't do crap like that. That's the kind of crap the other people do. That's the kind of people. We don't want to be like the Trumpers. Don't be like the Trumpers. Don't do crap they're doing. We can't do any more vandalism. And I don't know how I feel of taking over, like when they take over buildings on the college campus. I don't know what I feel about that, because, you know, it just makes it, just don't do anything to make the movement look bad, because they're already hurling those accusations out there of anti-Semitism, which is interesting because a crap load of the people that are protesting are Jewish. Oh man, you want to talk about anti-Semitism, and it's from the pro-Israel crowd. So there's these people with these people with their flags, and they're shouting stuff, and there's these Hasidic Jews, hardcore Hasidic Jews, that are protesting, and they're screaming at them and saying, "You're not Jews, you're Nazis, go to Auschwitz." Whoa! It's like, wait a second, dude. What is? And I think it was a lady. You just told a Jewish person to go to Auschwitz. Like, these are like hardcore Jews. I don't look at you and see anything that makes me know that you're a Jew. You don't wear the hats and the thing. I mean, that doesn't mean anything, but I'm just saying they're more Jewish than you are, and you're telling a Hasidic Jew to go to Auschwitz. Well, that's that's overtly anti-Semitic. But why aren't we hearing about that on the news? That's the whole thing. They're throwing it out, oh, you're anti-Semitic, but they're not showing the problem. And they'll talk about, oh, there was violence at protests. Well, the violence were from the counter-protesters. And this is what I'm saying. You got to work harder at, I mean, most of you are doing pretty good. You're just trying to get people out of there, but I've seen some people fight back, and I know it's the fight or flight thing, but you got to try harder. Like I said, if it gets violent, even if the other people start it, it's gonna give the people who are against us the rationality to delegitimize the what we're fighting against. So we got to bring back old school nonviolent protests, nonviolent means of doing things. Because the minute our side acts up, they're just going to be like, see, we told you, they're violent. We ignored all the violence from everybody else, but we told you. And that's the whole thing. We don't need to give them any reason to be able to delegitimize the movement, because it's a legitimate movement. It's all over this country. It's all over the world. We are standing up for what is right. We are doing the right thing. So we've got to work harder on that. No vandalism. Don't break windows. Don't dox people. Maybe protesters at college shouldn't occupy buildings. I know they did it back in the 60s, but this is different. They're trying to find any way they can to make it look like, oh, you're just a bunch of college students breaking stuff, spray painting people's houses. See, how dare you do this to a Jewish person? You're racist. You're anti-Semitic. So we've got y'all out there that are actually part of the thing. And this is the thing, like in New York, I don't know if they ever finished their investigation, because as far as I know, we don't know if it was actually protesters in the first place. It wasn't anything that I saw as anti-Semitic. They claimed the upside down triangle is Hamas or whatever, but I also heard it was like 10 different, symbolized 10 different other things. So maybe find a different symbol that's not considered that, but don't spray paint it on someone's house. Don't deface their property. Don't put signs saying who they are and that they're basically, they're white supremacist Zionists. Even if they are, we don't need to go fucking with people's homes. Leave people's homes alone. Leave them alone. You want to protest them in Congress. Protest them. Go to places that are known to support Israel. Go to places where APAC, go to APAC conventions and go outside of them and protest and let everybody know that we don't like people who support genocide. It has nothing to do with race or religion or anything like that. It is an injustice that is happening that our government is a part of. And this is the thing. If they did not have our weapons, they could not do what they're doing, and they wouldn't be all, oh, we're going to go invade Lebanon. Oh, they know they can do it because they know there's a unlimited supply of weapons coming straight to them to do anything they want with it. So yeah, this has been another episode of Chris Speaks. I'm your host, Christopher Thompson, and I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take it anymore. Okay, that was a little cheesy. It was better the first time. Alright, I'll be working on this. So I'll see y'all at a different time.